Hey everyone, so welcome to my channel. This right here is Merry Mojo, aka Mojo, my RRP prospect for the 2022 makeover. And this whole video is a couple of our schooling rides, one from last week and one from this week. So right here, this is the one from last week, and we're taking advantage of the warm weather that Kentucky finally decided to give us. So I'm just getting on, and he was having some difficulties previous to this, and a previous couple rides, where he wasn't standing still and he'd be swinging his hips. So even though he walked forward, I'm trying to let him know that when he stands still he gets a reward, so that hopefully that translates, and as you'll see in the video from this week, it did. So after that I just walk him around, and he's feeling quite tense this day. There was a horse that you can't see on the other side of the arena in a round pen. We have her in there because she's kind of on stall rest, just in a small round pen, and so he was getting pretty distracted by her and didn't really want to pay attention to me. So most of this ride is just me walking, trying to keep him chill, trying to just say, hey, focus on me. So I walk him over the poles a few times just to have him pay attention to where his feet are, give him something else to focus on other than the horse. And like overall he's doing pretty well. He's a very smart horse, but sometimes just thinks that he knows the best thing to do, and what he wants to do is the right thing to do. But I'm used to that. That's how Sterling is too. And we halted there, and he, flung up his head, but that's just baby horse things that'll improve as it goes on. And so once again, just even though it wasn't the best stop, he did stop. And I'm just trying to reinforce that when we're standing still, we get treats and it's a chill time, because that will translate later on, hopefully. When we're in a more stressful environment, he knows relaxing is to calm down and stop rather than to rush forward and get all tense and frantic. And so we just kept walking around, warming up. I'm starting to work a little bit with just some small leg yield steps with him, just off of my seat bone, just trying to get him to try and start to understand what that means. And you can see he's tossing his head, it's swinging, but that's all just consistent work. And I need to focus on keeping myself a bit more stable and my hands a bit more giving and going with the flow. But he's got, a decently active walk. You can tell he's a bit tense, but he's behaving for me, so I'll allow it. And so here I was trying to shift my weight and have him move over to the left a few leg yield steps, and you can see he's doesn't really understand what to do. He wants to stop and back and doesn't know what that cue means, so I'm just going to keep asking and keep making sure that he goes forward through it. I don't want the answer to my cues to be backwards. I want him to always be thinking forward. So if he's tossing his head there, I don't care, because he's giving me some sideways movement. And then he just really gave it to me over the poles, and I was like, okay, whatever. But that's also him drifting towards that other horse on the other side of the arena. So I want to correct that as much as I can without making him very angry. And here, this is my first time riding him with just a bareback pad, which he didn't mind at all. But I should have pushed him forward a bit more here. He's a little bottled up, a little tense. So just off of this, I'm going to be focusing on making him move forward and freely, and doing lots of transitions to have him focus on me. And once again, he did his little head thing, but he did stop, and then walking straight off forward. And then I got off of him. I didn't fall off. I got off. There was a tractor going by and horses leaving, and I just since he was a little distracted today, I just wanted to play it safe and went ahead and got off. And plus, it allowed me to practice getting on him again. So I got off. I did a little bit of yielding his hindquarters and his shoulders, and then here I am getting back on. And you can see already, he's like, oh yeah, if I stand still, I get treats. And he already like cranks his head over, which is fine. I don't mind if they do that because he's standing still. So, you take what you can get. I don't like to feed them too many treats, but I will use it as some positive reinforcement every now and again. And then since he's offering it to me, I'm just staying still, giving him lots of pets. Like, okay, we'll just stand here as long as you want. I'm never going to force them forward, especially in the early stages. If they want to stand still and relax, that is a-okay with me. So now I push him off into the walk, and it's already off to a little better start than it was when we first got on. And I found that sometimes they need that little break of getting off and then kind of almost restarting the session. Sometimes it doesn't help, but sometimes, especially here in Mojo's case, he came back a little more focused, a little more like, okay, I'm working, like better halts, you can see right there. And then I did reward that because that was a really good halt compared to before. So sometimes, you have to play around with what helps your horse. And now I know in this case, sometimes if he's getting a bit too tense or he's just not focusing, maybe getting off, doing a bit of groundwork, and then hopping back on to continue the session may be a good tool in my toolbox. And that's the thing about building up these young horses, just adding tools in your toolbox. So and he's got kind of a more relaxed walk now, a little bit more chill. We do still have sideways bobbing of the head, but that's just consistency. And like I said earlier, I need to focus on really pushing him forward through my hands instead of balancing him between them to where he feels like he has to head bob. So that's on me, but did the pulls really nicely, and I was asking for a few steps of leg yield, and he did that really well. He was a bit resistant, but, I'll take it. And he swung his butt around when I asked him to halt, but he did halt just off of seat. So I probably shouldn't have rewarded him, but then I realized when he started moving his butt even more, he was expecting to get the treats on the left side, so I made sure to reward him on the right side. So just making sure when you give treats off saddle, you're doing it equally on both sides, so they're not always whipping around to the left or to the right. Because although I don't mind him saying, oh yeah, I did a good job, because I'm verbally rewarding him as well before, and clucking before I give him the treat, so he knows that he did good, but just making sure that they're not expecting it on one side or the other.
It fell on the ground.
And I asked for a few steps over there, and he gave it to me pretty willingly. I did a few more trot and walk after that, but he was just, I feel like we both kind of weren't in the headspace to be able to do stuff well. So I got off and I lunged him around a bit more, just to have him move freely and move forward. And afterwards, I thought we would just kind of play around at liberty, have some fun, end it on a positive note. I always like to end on a positive, relaxed note. And so here, this is actually my first time asking him to move around me in a circle, and you can see he starts to leave right there. So we made it a solid half circle, but hey, I called him back and he came back to me, so I was really proud of him for that. At least it's the small things, because he thought about leaving and he was looking at that other horse, but he decided to come back and join me. And at this point in the session, I've run out of treats, so it's all just pets as rewards. But he knows that that's also part of his reward system, so it's not too big of a deal. here I thought we'd try. He has done going through the pool noodles with a halter and lead rope before, but I thought I would try having him go through at Liberty. And he's a very thoughtful horse, so he's really not scared of too much. And I was like, oh yeah, sometimes they bolt through, and then he bolts right over to the other horse. So I was like, okay. So I go over, and he's just like, oh, I want to say hi. And then as I was trying to move him away from there, he decided to just go ahead and jump over that. And I was like, well, maybe I've got a jumper. Who knows? But anyways, after that, I got him back on the halter and the lead and wanted to finish up with us going over some obstacles. So we went over that little checkerboard on the ground. He actually did the obstacles really well today, so I'm glad that I finished on them, because usually he kind of falls off of them or is pretty unsure, but he was really good with all of these. And so this is a little Teeter-Totter, and this is his first time going over this one, and he did pretty well. He got a little bit scared at the end when it bounced back up after he took a step off of it, but not a big deal. And then over just a little ramp, and he did that perfectly. Very careful with his steps and didn't fall off the sides at all, so I was really happy about that. And he keeps coming back to me after every single, even if he gets spooked or he kind of rushes through at the end, he still comes back to me. So I'm very happy about his thought process through all this. Then I thought I'd try the pedestal, and he did that really well. I think he really liked it. He was like, ooh, I'm tall. I really want to incorporate a pedestal in our freestyle at the makeover, so I wanted to go ahead and start working on it, and he really liked it, so that is good. And then I wanted to go back through the pool noodles since he sort of rushed through them previously, and just tell him that he can't run away from me when he goes through an obstacle. I wanted to make sure that wasn't going to turn into an issue. So, and then he comes across a checkerboard to come back to me, so I was really happy about that. And I never worry about them like bolting through obstacles or getting a little bit scared at the end. That's not a big deal. I'm not going to punish them for that. That's just them being a little bit worried, and that's absolutely fine. And seeing he comes back to me. So I'm always trying to be a positive, relaxed place for them to be. So he did that pretty well. I was really happy with him coming towards me. So that was the end of that session, and like I said, that was last week. And then this is from this past Tuesday, one of our schooling rides, and we have a show tomorrow. So this was one of our our longer rides, just prepping for the show. And you'll probably see my mouth moving a lot during this because I had a little wireless mic that I thought was working, and then it wasn't. So I was like narrating the whole ride, and on rewatching the video, you can't hear me at all. So sorry about that. I'm going to try and get that fixed so that I can actually ride and talk while I'm riding, because I think that'd be nice. But as you can see, he's standing really nicely, doesn't want to move forward. I did give him a little treat. So already so much better about standing, and I'm really hoping, and now I'm treating left and right now, but I'm really hoping that this translates towards show atmosphere, so even if he's a bit stressed, he knows stand and when I'm mounting, because I don't really want to get taken off with when I mount him at the show. So we're just walking off, just gonna walk him on a loose rein for a while. I did lunge him a bit before I got on, just to go through the motions. In the beginning, I like to lunge them before every ride, just if they need to get their sillies out or get some extra energy out. I just find that it helps their brain. So you can see he's pretty relaxed, and he doesn't really care about the horse in the round pen anymore. We've done about probably 4 or 5 rides now in the arena with horses in pins on either side, and he has learned that it doesn't really matter and he doesn't need to focus on them, which is great. So we just doesn't really have a problem drifting towards her anymore, doesn't really care about her. So we're just walking on. Now I'm starting to try and get a bit of a connection. I really needed to push him forward a bit more here, and that was kind of the thing I noticed about this whole ride, looking back on it, was I just needed to push him forward. Sometimes they'll give me a decent rhythm and feeling, but I need to push them forward to encourage relaxation, so that's a me thing. But you can see I asked him for some leg yield there, and he gave me some really good steps and stayed on the contact, so I was really happy about that. And you can see he doesn't care about the horse, which, love that. I think over here I asked for a bit of leg yield towards the wall again, and he gave that to me really nice. And I had set up these ground poles in a circle. I had originally planned to use it as a canter aid, cantering on a circle over the poles, but ended up not doing that. But it is good for, it doesn't have to just be used at the canter, and he kind of wanted to rush coming out of this corner, so it actually helped, turn, and then he had to focus on the poles, so it ended up still being a good thing to use. And so here you can see I already know that I'm not going to be able to run through tests with this horse because he's wanting to leg yield towards the wall again and or drift. But I asked it once and he did really well and I rewarded him. And I think now he's thinking, oh, I can just do that every single time. So in the back of my mind right now, I'm going, okay, we're going to stay off the walls and, really try to stop drifting. And he's, resisting me a bit, but overall it's not too bad. And here's where I should have been pushing him a bit more forward, and he wants to drift a bit more, and I'm gonna have to say no. So it's just funny because, one, you can use drifting sometimes to your advantage when you're teaching them to yield, and that's kind of what I did. But he's smart enough that now he thinks he can use that to his advantage and is getting mad at me when I'm telling him, no, you can't do that anymore. But he gave me a pretty good change of direction there. Stayed relatively on the aids. I wish he would shoot his neck out a bit more. He's a bit too tense and up in his neck, but it's all just building blocks. And like I said, if I pushed him forward a bit more, that would probably have helped his neck to come out. But he has a really nice tempo right now, and that's what I was feeling. So I didn't want to ask for too much. And you see, he still has his baby throwing his head moments, and that's, whatever. He's just in a simple snaffle, egg butt. His nose band is loose, he's fine. And there I was a little stupid. I thought I could just ask for the canter transition out of a not really forward or engaged trot with no planning. Sometimes I forget that this horse is not like my other horse who is at second level right now and knows all the things. I'm still trying to remember that we're building this one up, but he's so good and is very smart that I have trouble remembering that he still needs to learn and doesn't know everything quite yet. So he did good for me being dumb, but I really don't know what I was thinking. And in the past few rides before this, we were kind of having difficulty picking up the canter. He would run into it. So that was right there was a bit better. I should have gotten a better trot before, a longer trot, instead of just walk, trot, canter, but you learn as you go, and he did it pretty well. He didn't run into it, and he was really responsive, so it's good for him to learn with stupid mistakes. And here we have it's a better trot. I like this trot better. It's a bit more active. I slowed down a bit too much here. And then I asked, he kind of runs into that, and then he doesn't want to move his shoulders, so I'm gonna ask him to go forward. He changes, whatever. And there I get another canter right away, and then he's a bit better. So I'm just asking him to stay turning his shoulders, and this is his harder direction, so he's doing better. And I was going to go right back up to the canter, but through that transition, he lowered his head and had contact, so I decided to let it go. And this is a much better trot before I slow down right here, which I could just keep kicking myself. But coming out of there, even here, it's a lot better than what we started with. So if there's anything I learned from here, I need to have more following hand and push them forward into the contact. Sometimes I make the mistake of pulling them back in, which is something you shouldn't do. So I need to just constantly remind myself to follow him and push him into it. But I do like how this is looking a bit more. And this all translates into how I decide to warm up as well for shows and clinics and whatnot. He seems a lot freer after cantering a bit and a bit more relaxed. He did. So I'll keep that in mind, and when we're warming up, maybe I need to have some canter in there before I begin my actual work. And that's how my other horse Sterling is. He needs canter in his warm-up. It always helps him. So not a big deal. You just figure these things out. That's what practice is for. As long as you apply it. And so I finished off with some trot and then walking a bit there. I don't know what I'm doing here. I think trying to get some good trot walks, transitions without him throwing his head. Still head bobbing a bit, but that'll go away as he gets more strength. He's only really been in work for about 2 months, so. And even though there was head bobbing in that transition, he went forward pretty willingly and tried to stay connected for me, so I was pretty happy with that. And then I kept trying to find a good place to get him to walk where he would relax down into it, but he kept wanting to bob up and down with his whole body. And I really should have just pushed him forward here and made him move instead of holding him back to the walk, but it was a decent enough transition, but it could have been better if I had just spent a bit more time on it. And that was really good. Well, until he moved his butt around. But the transition in itself was really nice. Although I should have done it in a different area than what I did before. And that, okay, but it could have been better, more relaxed and more through. And here I'm trying to introduce and get him to start with his stretchy trot. And in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of curling, and there's not going to be as good as a stretch as you want, but it's all about just working them through that, because he's trying. He may be curling and doing it wrong, but he's at least trying to move forward and figure it out, so I'm very happy that he's at least trying to release into it. And there we go. And I always like to, when I'm teaching them the stretchy trot, to find a good place where they will stretch through the trot to walk transition, it just seems to really help them solidify, because he's got a beautiful free walk and walk on the long rein. So he knows how to do it on the walk, and making sure that they have that transition from trot to walk through a stretchy frame really helps, from what I found, helps them transfer it from the walk to the trot, and will help that stretchy trot be a lot better. And now I'm just walking him around on a loose rein, just letting him relax. He's got a really nice walk. He overtracks really, really well and moves forward pretty freely. And here I like to teach them to stop based on just a deep breath and sinking into the saddle. And he was pretty much blatantly ignoring that. So I back him a few steps, say, nope, you have to pay attention, and then ask again. And I had to use a bit of rein on that one, but overall it was a lot better, and it was from a longer rein. So I accepted that, told him go boy, and then just stopped from there. Once again, always stopping on a good note, and I was pretty pleased with how that went. So we had practiced a few more walk halts before that. And he was really running through them and wasn't respecting my seat, so that was a lot better. And he's a horse that learns and will apply something the next day, as you saw with him standing at the mounting block. And he was already better at the next ride at listening to my seat cues. So if they show try and it's a bit better, I'm gonna always reward that. Yeah, that was our ride from Tuesday. And so, like I mentioned, we have a show coming up on Saturday, just training 1 on Saturday and then training 1 and 2 on Sunday. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I really have no expectations for him other than I really would like not to be run off with, and I want to stay in the ring. That's literally it. But he's a good horse, and I think he'll do well. It's all about how he reacts to the atmosphere of the show. That's the only thing. But even if that's a little rough, it's just putting miles on him. So hopefully it goes well. And here you can see after our ride, I put him on the TheraPlate for a bit to let him loosen up, and he has his back on track wraps on. And then I took him around the place to graze, and he was really good. So I'm really excited about Saturday, hoping that he does well and I stay calm and we do a good job. So, and there will be a show vlog coming after that, so probably on Monday or Tuesday. So thanks.